Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. Second hour, kick it off right now on this Monday morning of March 30th. If you're already up and at it, we appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us as you get set for another brand new work week here. We'll get back to some more baseball talk as the Brewers picking up a season opening sweep against the Chicago White Sox, highlighted by that walk-off. I keep saying walk-off. Highlighted by that go-ahead home run by Christian Yelich in the bottom of the eighth inning to secure that series sweep against the White Sox. Brewers will be right back at it tonight at home, taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Yes, to a couple of you, we did talk about River Falls winning a championship, too. We talked about that. We talked about River Falls hockey, women's winning another championship. We talked about that, so don't be yelling at me because we did. Also mentioned Stouts. Men's hockey falling in their Frozen Four match too. So, jeez Louise. So we'll get back to that. Blue Gold basketball also picking up a big time hire on Friday, announcing Hannah Iverson as their new women's basketball coach. So, what else we got? Well, we'll talk a little Bucks as their season is officially over with. 8 games left to go. Now we're getting set for, is it fair to say, a potentially franchise-defining offseason coming up here for the Bucks? Maybe, possibly. We'll talk some hoops along with the Final Four. Taking a look at the Final Four here. So we've got Packers coming up here. We're going to talk a little Packers here in just a second because we've got coaches breakfast. Oh, the owners meeting and the coaches breakfast. This is when you get your coaches picture too. So everybody's kind of wondering where Ben. The best thing would be is if like Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur are sitting right next to each other in that team photo. That, come on, gotta make it happen. All right, make it happen. Or on the complete opposite end, make sure they're as far away as possible from one end to the other. Add a little more drama to that thing. But everybody's like talking about that on social media. So, but we threw out a question. If you could ask Matt LaFleur one legit question today, you're part of the media that's at that coach's breakfast, and you're sitting around and having your scrambled eggs and OJ and some coffee or whatever the case may be, and you get to ask him one legit question because you are a member of the media. What would you ask Matt LaFleur since the last time we heard from him, which was before Jonathan Gannon named defensive coordinator, before Matt LaFleur's extension, before new special teams coordinator? All right, a lot has happened since then. New players. What would you ask him? What would you ask him? All right. Matt LaFleur did chat a little bit with NFL Network's Mike Garafolo on Saturday at the annual league meetings. A couple quotes from Matt LaFleur. First off, talking a little bit about Jordan Love and such. Said, quote, many teams in this league are only as good as your guy pulling the trigger. So we feel like we are very fortunate to have one of those guys that I think the sky's the limit for him. We trust each other quite a bit. I would say our relationship's really strong. It's been cool to watch his evolution, not only as a player, but as a man. From the time we drafted him to where he is now, and he's about to be a dad here really, really soon in a couple weeks, but he's really developed into a really good leader for us. And this is also coming off of recent comments that Jordan Love had just a couple days ago, saying that he was really happy that the Packers extended Matt LaFleur. Jordan Love saying, quote, yeah, it was great. Like you mentioned, he's been my head coach since I got here. That's the coach who drafted me. So being able to keep Matt around is awesome. I'm very happy about that. I think anytime in the NFL, I've done this in college where the coaches leave and you're in a new system, it's tough. It's a lot to be able to learn a whole new system, a new terminology. So for a quarterback to be able to stay in the same system and keep the same terminology, it definitely helps me and my teammates out that we can hit the ground running when we get to OTAs and just build off of what we've done the last couple of years. That was in an interview to WFRV. Some other comments, though, from Matt LaFleur. Talking about, with the losing of some players and such. He said, I think the familiarity with most of our guys, obviously we lost some people. Losing a guy like Romeo Dobbs is not the easiest to replace, but it's an opportunity for other guys to step up and get more opportunities. We lost Rasheed Walker as well, but I'm excited about the group we've got coming back. It'll be great to have Tucker Kraft coming off his ACL injury. He's been around quite a bit, watching him train and rehab and go through the process. He is going to be a big focal point of our offense. He also said that he is right on schedule in terms of his recovery. So just a few comments from Matt LaFleur ahead of today's breakfast with the media. But what would you ask Matt LaFleur? Surveyor says, do you like the moves that your front office has made? And are there any guys that you wanted them to go after that they didn't? Now, to be fair, he probably wouldn't answer that part, Surveyor, considering they might be on other teams and such. So he'd probably not answer that one publicly out there. But it's a good question. I'd like to know that answer too. Is there any players that he was maybe pounding the table for? Just like pounding the table for, saying, this is who I want, this is who we need, this is who we should get, right? To be a fly on the wall of his office, or maybe he had some convos, some private convos with Goody and such. But, yeah, I'd like to know that too. Was there somebody certain, or maybe a couple players out there, that he for sure wanted Green Bay to go out there and get? I think for me, if I was at that table today and getting to chat with LaFleur and able to ask him a question, there'd be a few that I would. So if I had to narrow it down to just one, I'd almost want to ask him something related to, okay, you did get an extension, but how do you plan on, I guess, taking the next step? Like, what do you have to do to take that next step? Not to just make the postseason again as a 7th seed, but advancing into postseason. How do you take that next step to getting back to an NFC championship game? How do you take that next step to advancing to a Super Bowl? How are you going to fix closing out games? From all of your off-season work and all of your off-season self-scouting, did you find ways? Did anything kind of pop up? Did anything kind of, really was consistent in maybe our reasons why we weren't able to finish out games? What did you find? Was there something that was more common than the other? Was it play calling? Was it players? How is that something that you can, as a coach, be better at as a team? What can you do as a coach to be better at as a team to close out these games? Because, and I'd say, hey, your boss, Goody, has mentioned this numerous times on record to the media. We have got to learn to close out games. We have got to learn to finish these games. So, as the head coach and as the offensive play caller, what are you going to do differently? Was there something in your self-scouting with your staff that you found that where you're like, okay, this is what we believe that was maybe our reasoning or our causes of why we weren't able to finish off games, and this is what we're going to do differently going forward. I think another question I would ask him is, and again, this one he probably would not say officially on the record, but I would really like to ask him, how much did he really want to interview Jimmy Leonhard, and did he feel the pressure of potentially losing out on his next choice, Jonathan Gannon, if he didn't hire him? Like, how much was that a factor? Or was Gannon always his number one pick regardless? Because he did interview Jimmy Leonhard a few years ago, so a little bit of familiarity and such. But I'd like to know a little bit more about that process too, the defensive coordinator search. And then maybe a third one I'd throw in there, kind of similar, but from the special teams aspect. Did Rich Bisaccia initially bring up the possibility of leaving? And did you try to kind of convince him to stay, and that's why it was a late announcement? Do you regret it now? Do you feel like that, again, he wouldn't acknowledge this publicly, but do you wish you could kind of have a redo and maybe get a wider group of potential special teams coordinator candidates out there? Yeah, there's a bunch that I would ask, but if I had to narrow it down, I'd probably ask, what are you going to do differently as the head coach and as the offensive play caller to close out these games? And I just thought of another one at the top of my head. How much, okay, this would be fourth. How much does he pay attention to those NFL Players Association grades? Because he went down. Okay, he went down in grades. How much does he take that seriously? And I hope he does. Granted, I know it might be just a portion of the team, but still. You want to get your whole team on the same page, and you want your whole team to buy into what you're selling. You're the head man. You're the head coach, right? So how much does he pay attention to that, and what is his process of looking at himself to be better as a head coach for everybody on his team? Not just a select few, but for everybody. What else would you ask LaFleur? All right, there's a bunch of questions we could probably ask him, right? Those were just a few off the top of my head. Send yours on over, too. All right. Got a couple Packers rumors to throw out there, so let's do that. We'll take a quick break and be back after these quick words. If you are in the Eau Claire School District, it's spring break right now, so maybe you need to load up the food pantry. Maybe you need to load up the freezers with some extra pizzas and such for the kiddos and snacks and that. Where do you go to do that? It's simple. Head on over to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, because when it comes to fresh, convenient, and delicious, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire has got you covered. From fresh produce and premium meats to bakery favorites and ready-to-go meals, everything you need is under one roof. Planning some dinner tonight, or maybe grabbing lunch on the run, stocking up for the week? Hey, Hy-Vee makes it simple. A store that feels like your neighborhood market, just a bit bigger. Plus, with daily and weekly deals and seasonal specials, there's always something new to discover. Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, where there is a helpful smile in every aisle. All right. Let's, so we do have a little bit of maybe kind of a rumor or such. First of all. Okay, so this was over the weekend. Rich Committee from ESPN had said that, and he covers the Jets and such, but there was a little bit of a nugget that Dontavian Wicks is a player that they're potentially interested in and maybe even called Green Bay on. So there's other wide receivers out there. This was part of his piece on here. It says, with free agency and trades, the Jets have addressed almost every positional need with one notable exception. Wide receiver, rest assured, they have a plan. They have 4 of the top 44 picks in the draft, which isn't top-heavy with elite talent, but runs deep. I think receivers are going to fly off the board on day 2. Don't sleep on the possibility of the Jets trading for a veteran. It's already been an active offseason for wide receiver trades, and you're talking about a GM who has made 12 player trades in little over a year. Brian Thomas, Rashad Bateman, Quentin Johnson, and Dontavian Wicks have been mentioned as trade possibilities. So, could Dontavian Wicks be on the move? We've heard this stuff about Jaden Reed and such, right? Well, we've heard about, should the Packers trade Jaden Reed and all that. Now, Dontavian Wicks, he has shown some really good glimpses when he's had opportunities, right? And Dontavian Wicks is super talented. Okay, he is super talented. He is what he does really well is getting off the line of scrimmage. The way he is able to beat coverage reminds a lot of people of Devontae Adams with his moves at the line of scrimmage to get open. Now, has he had, 1,000-yard season or a ton of targets each game in that? No, I mean, when you look at his 3 years, 15 games his rookie year 2023, 581 receiving yards. And then, there we go. All right. 581 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. 2024, 17 games, 415 yards, 5 touchdowns. Last year, played in 14 games, 332 yards, and 2 touchdowns. We remember his big game last year was that Thanksgiving Day game. He seems like a guy, and maybe he's a guy that just kind of gets lost in the shuffle, kind of gets lost in the depth chart. Is he a guy that, with a bigger, expanded role, that he could do a little bit more? I think there's that thought, and there's definitely that possibility. Is it going to come in Green Bay this year, in his final year? I mean, when you look at it, Watson, Golden, Reed, you throw Tucker Kraft in there, are the options kind of limited? So the question is, do you trade him? Try to get a pick? Do you hold on to him because you want depth at that position? Because maybe you're an injury away from Dontavian Wicks being a regular contributor and a consistent contributor. If you had, let's take away compensation for this kind of informal poll question on this, okay? Let's take away, I think this guy's going to get a higher return. All things equal in this. If Green Bay were going to trade a receiver, and I'm not saying they're going, and I'm not saying that they should. I've got no problem with keeping depth. If you've got a championship goal, you need as many good players as you possibly can have, and you stack that roster and you stack that depth chart. But if they were going to trade either Reed or Wicks, you're Goody. Or Goody gives you a call. He shoots you a text and he says, hey, Jim Bob, I got to trade one of these receivers. Which one should I trade? Which one should I keep that's going to help my offense more? Which one should I keep and maybe try to sign to an extension or whatever reasons you want to throw out there? Which one would you keep? Which one would you look to trade? Again, don't worry about the compensation. Don't be like, well, Jane Reed's going to get more in return, so I would trade Jane Reed. All things equal on this one. I'm looking at what would benefit the Packers the most if you had to move one. So in this case, which one benefits the Packers the most in terms of who would they keep? I kind of lean towards Jane Reed still. I think Jane Reed is more of the Swiss Army knife. And I think they're both different receivers, and they're both super talented in their own ways. Like Dontavian Wicks, we talked about how he can get off the line of scrimmage. Guy can get open. Has he struggled with some drops at times? Yes. But then he has that Thanksgiving Day game where he's just like catching everything. He was a big-time target, big-time player in that game. Jayden Reed, I feel like, can do maybe a few different things within this offense. So I'm probably keeping Reed if it were up to me. I think it would have to be an offer that would kind of blow the door off of Brian Gutekunst and the Packers if they were going to trade a guy like Dontavian Wicks. Because I don't think Green Bay has a problem having too much depth. You know, and I think the jury's still out. I mean, let's be real here too, okay? What do they have with Matthew Golden? We assume that he's going to be still a good player, and we're assuming that, okay, he just didn't have a lot of opportunities last year. That's why his numbers weren't up there and such. So with more of an opportunity, with Romeo Doubs, you know, not in the picture anymore, he's going to have more. And that very well is probably going to happen and very well could happen. But what if it doesn't? Do you want a backup option in case? I don't know what the heck they have in Savion Williams, to be honest with you. I don't yet. And I hope maybe we get to see a little bit more of what they got in him in his second year. But that's where it's like, unless you get an offer that just blows it away. I'm talking like a day 2 pick. All right? Like a day 2 pick. If you get something like that for a guy like Dontavian Wicks, who I think it could be an incredibly talented wide receiver, then I think you seriously have to consider it. But right now, with the uncertainty behind, you know, and even let's face it too, Watson's had some injuries. Still a little bit unknown with Golden. Jayden Reed. Tucker Kraft's coming back from injury. I'd rather be well set and well situated with some depth options instead of just saying, oh, let's trade in, you know, before the guy leaves next offseason and get a decent pick in return. I don't like operating like that all the time. If you're about winning now, put together your best team. Put together the best team possible from a depth perspective. That's what I want. We got to take a quick break. Coming up next, our Glory Days, or I should say coming up here in a little bit, Glory Days segment brought to you by Summer Jam in Eau Claire. We'll get back to some more baseball talk with the Brewers sweeping the White Sox, and now they've got the Tampa Bay Rays coming to town here too. So continue to send me your VFW post at 305, best and worst from the weekend. All right, you can text those or you can hit us up on the video stream in the Section 105 chats. Quick break, back with plenty more after these quick words. Tax season is here, and so the question is, what are you going to do with that refund check this year? Why not maybe invest it in your own space, maybe for your man cave, or maybe you need some new flooring for the living room, the bedroom, the kitchen. Been on that to-do project list for a long time. Well, get it done this year. Head to our good friends at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire and upgrade your flooring game in whatever space that you have that needs that upgrade in your flooring game. Whether it's with some new beautiful carpets, or maybe you've been dreaming about some durable luxury vinyl planks like some Ridge and Max flooring. They got all the options that you need. You're not sure where to start or where to begin? Hey, their entire team at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire will help you from start to finish. Even if you're not sure, man, I don't know what color would look best in my man cave. Hey, they help me out with that too. So they could do the same for you. So don't let that refund disappear, maybe on some things that you don't need. All right? Invest it. Put it towards something that you will enjoy every single day. Stop on in to Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire and turn that home upgrade into something that you will love for years to come. All right. So, Glory Days brought to you by Summer Jam here in Eau Claire. Glory Days, our segment, kind of, everybody always says, you know, remember the good old days, or remember the glory days of this. Well, I'm relating my Glory Days segment to remember when it was all good and dandy when it came to the Milwaukee Bucks. Remember the Glory Days of the Bucks finishing towards the top of the Eastern Conference and competing maybe for an NBA championship, or at least that was the expectation and that was the goal and such. Oh, those were the glory days, right? Because, well, the Bucks will not be back to the playoffs this year, which is probably to no surprise of anybody at this point. But over the weekend, they were officially eliminated after their loss to the Spurs, and then they lost to the Clippers, too. So now they're just kind of on this, race to see what their odds are going to be when it comes to the NBA draft lottery at this point. But they're tied with the Bulls right now, 29-45 in the Eastern Conference. The teams that have a worse record than the Bucks would be Brooklyn, Washington, Indiana, Memphis, Pelicans, Dallas, Utah, and the Kings. We bring those teams up because, well, they're going to have better chances for the top pick or a high pick in this thing. So we need the ping pong balls to go the way of the Milwaukee Bucks in that. But, you look at this trend. Let's bring up the Bucks record throughout since they've won even a little bit before they won the NBA championship and such. I'll say this, it's like a what if or hindsight 2020 sort of thing. Did they make a mistake hiring Mike Budenholzer or firing Mike Budenholzer? Should they have kept him here a little bit? 2018. All right. So let's go to 2018. So actually, let's go 1 year before that. Okay. Because in 2017, 2017-18 season, the Bucks finished 7th in the Eastern Conference, 44-38. What happened then? Well, earlier on in that season, they let go of Kidd and such. They then hire Mike Budenholzer. And the following season, they're the top seed. They went 60-22. We're 33-8 at home. Made that jump. But then we know Raptors also had the Kawhi Leonard trade and that Eastern Conference Finals, right? Right there. 2019-2020, you had the Bucks, 56-17, top seed as well. And then 2020 in the 21 season, 46-26, third in the Eastern Conference. But in 2020-2021 season, champs. And then since then, yeah, you kind of look at what they've done since their championship season. 2020-21 lost won the NBA championship. Then they lost in the conference semis the following year. And I know they had some injuries and such, but they still finished 51-31. 2022-2023, 58-24, lost in the first round. They make the change at coach. Adrian Griffin, Joe Prunty, Doc Rivers. They lose in the first round. They go 49-33. Then they go 48-34, lose in the first round with Doc Rivers. And then this year, not even making the playoffs. But man, wasn't that long ago where the glory days of some Milwaukee Bucks basketball was the glory days of the Giannis era with Mike Budenholzer as head coach. I mean, for crying out loud, Budenholzer went 60-22, 56-17, 46-26, 51-31, and his last season, 58-24. They make the change. They bring in Adrian Griffin, and he went 30-13, but they move on from him. And then they go to Doc Rivers after Joe Prunty coached for 3 games. And that Doc Rivers era, he hasn't even, last year was a winning season, I guess 48-34, but 17-19 when he came in. Last year, 48-34, and then 29-45 so far this year. Man, Is it fair to say that this offseason coming up here is the most pivotal, crucial offseason in Milwaukee Bucks history? Maybe since the trade of Kareem and that, because of the and we've had different points of this with the Giannis conversation, but I feel like at this point, it feels like now more than ever, we may not see Giannis with the Bucks next year, just because of the current state of this franchise, where everything is at. This is going to be one of the biggest decisions, biggest moments in franchise history this offseason, because if we take Wes Edens at his word, there's only one of these two options going to happen this offseason, this summer. Giannis signs an extension or he gets traded. If Giannis signs an extension, all right, I think the commitment is there. We can, even if he signs an extension, I know there's going to be some peeps out there that are going to, still talk about possible trades and such. And that'll never go away. I don't think that's ever going to go away as long as Giannis is wearing a Bucks uniform in that. But if he signs, I feel like, okay, the commitment is there for the next few seasons. Now you look at this offseason like, okay, what are you going to do? You got Giannis back. What are you going to do to surround him with that proper talent, with that supporting cast? Now, to be fair, Giannis has also been banged up, and he has missed a lot of time too. And I think Giannis has to do some self-reflection this offseason and be like, all right, what do I got to do differently? Or how can I prepare better so that I can, play a majority of these games in a season, help out my team. I'm a player at the caliber, at the level of, if I'm not on that court, if I'm not playing, there's a big dip in production from my team. He's got to realize that. And I think that's where he has to take a look at his off-season approach and maybe rest and recover and all that. I appreciate he wants to play, and he wants to play all the time, and I love that mindset. But at the same time, we know how the NBA teams are built. If he's going to miss an extended portion of time, it's going to have an effect on his team, regardless of what team he is on, if it's the Bucks or somebody else. But man, it's like Andy from The Office. That quote, season finale, you wish somebody could tell you you're in the good old days when you're in them. I'm kind of paraphrasing. That's kind of what like the glory days is. And man, maybe I wish I appreciated the Bucks run with their championship. I mean, that from 2018 to 2022, let's say, those 4 years were those glory years of the Giannis run. Lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. Lost in the conference semis. Won the finals. Lost in the conference semis. Right now, I would love getting to the conference semis with this Bucks team and just being in contention for that thing. I get it. At that time, we were probably like, hey, we got to get another championship with Giannis. And yeah, we absolutely should. And that should always be the goal. But now I would just kill. I shouldn't say that, but I would just love it if we could be in contention again for a conference semis, for crying out loud. And it's, man, and it might not be fair to compare, but look at the Celtics, for crying out loud. You want to talk about an organization that is run like a well-oiled machine, and they've got it figured out. To not have Tatum for well over half the season and to put themselves in a position that they did, and even in the offseason making the moves they did, trading Drew Holiday, trading Porzingis, and like, okay, this is going to be an off year for the Celtics. They still had Jaylen Brown and such, but maybe we just didn't give Jaylen Brown enough credit. I mean, he was an all-star and a good player in that, but maybe just didn't give him enough credit to how good of a player he is. But the Celtics, they weathered that, and they didn't just weather the storm without Tatum. They were winning games and still playing at a high level, and now you add Tatum to the mix. It's like Son of a gun. Bucks didn't have that. They don't have it from a coaching standpoint. They don't have it from a front office standpoint. They didn't have it from a depth standpoint with their roster. Celtics just made some smart moves overall this past offseason, and, man, they had everything in place. They're kind of the Patriots right now, it feels like. Or the Chiefs. That's probably maybe a little bit of a better example at this point, but I don't know. The glory days of the Bucks from 2018 to 2022. I'd love to go back to that run with Giannis and those Bucks teams. Man, what could have been? But I do think this is going to be a very crucial offseason, and an offseason that could either change an entire franchise one way or the other. It's just, yeah. I guess if I had to pick one side that I think is going to happen, I think Giannis is probably traded. Because if you're Giannis, do you want to commit to a extension without kind of seeing some of the other moves and such? And you're going to have to, like, trust somebody's word that, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. All right, yep, I'll sign. But then what if they don't? You know what I mean? It's like there's going to have to be a lot of trust in a lot of these talks this offseason. All right, we got to finish up the second quarter, and then we're going to be at halftime. We'll be right back after these quick words. Looking for reliable auto service in the area? Well, hey, you've got a couple of options, and they're both right here in Eau Claire, and that's AJM Automotive. They've got two convenient locations here in the Chippewa Valley, and they make it easy to get the care your vehicle deserves, whether it's like an oil change, which I'm getting mine tomorrow, brake work, engine repairs, whatever the case may be. They've got the friendly experts and the honest advice and the quality service that gets you back on the road safely. So make sure you're checking them out online, AJMAutomotiveservices.com, for all their services, info, their two locations and such. And always, don't forget, follow their Facebook page as well. Look them up at AJM Automotive. AJM Automotive, dependable service done right here in Eau Claire. All right, as we approach halftime, as we approach 2 hours in and 2 more to go, we're going to talk some more baseball coming up next hour. Brewers getting a little spring cleaning, early spring cleaning. The Brew Crew sweeping the White Sox over the weekend thanks to Yelly's monster go-ahead home run yesterday. So we'll get back some more baseball talk. We've got more of your VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekend. So send them on over. All right. What was the best? What was the worst from the weekend? I want to get more of it, your picks. So please send those on over. Final four is set in the men's college basketball tournament. How's your brackets looking, peeps? Knock on wood. Mine's looking pretty darn good. Can't ask for anything better. Got all Final Four teams in there. Now, that doesn't mean anything if I don't have championship or anything like that. So if you look at the leaderboard, yep, I'm up there. Surveyor Sam, you're in third. Kent is in second place. Surveyor, who do you have in your... Oh, look at that. Surveyor, you and I had the same... Surveyor, come on now. Us four? Pat yourself on the back too, man. Got all Final Four teams in there, big guy. We have the same exact Final Four, Surveyor. Just a different matchup in the championship game. So Surveyor's got Arizona over Illinois. I've got Arizona over UConn. So I think, Surveyor, Surveyor, you and I, a lot's going to depend on that UConn-Illinois game there, big guy. If Illinois goes, you might have it. Don't quote me. I got to look at it. So Kent had UConn, Houston, Arizona, and Michigan, and then he had Houston and Arizona in it. But, all right, Surveyor, hey now, I think it's between, let me look up another one here for Tom. So Tom had Duke, Illinois, and then Arizona, Michigan, and Illinois and Michigan. But Tom is 1 point behind you, Sam, so I think that would be the difference. Now, does anybody have maybe Illinois winning it all? I don't think so. don't think anybody has Illinois winning it. Don't quote me, but another one. Okay, they have Illinois in there, but they're too far behind. So, all right, Surveyor, it might be between you and I there, big guy, when it comes to our brackets. How about that? Do we do a little side hustle, side bet there, man? But the rest of you, maybe not in our bracket challenge. Anybody feeling good about some other bracket challenges? Feeling good? How do you think this tournament has gone so far? You liking it? Been entertaining? I think it has been for the most part. I mean, I thought St. John's was going to get it done against Duke, but then Duke came back and got that win and such. There goes my dream, though, of Rick Pitino becoming the North Carolina coach because he re-upped with St. John's and got a nice pay raise and such. He's a big East Coast guy anyway, so I know it was a very, 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 very much a long shot. I just thought it'd be kind of funny for that. I have no idea where North Carolina does go at this point, though. So we'll talk some more hoops, college hoops and such. I know Badger women's basketball, they're in the women's basketball invitational, and they're in the semis today. If they win, they do advance to the championship game. Men's hockey for the Badgers, taking down Michigan State, forcing overtime, and then winning in overtime to advance to the Frozen Four. They're going to be taking on North Dakota on Thursday. So, and then, of course, UW Stout, they fell. The men's team fell in their Frozen Four, but UW River Falls women's team winning the national title again. So, big weekend in terms of hockey for the state of Wisconsin, right? Big weekend. Also, got to give a shout out for the Blue Golds too. So I know Blue Gold softball just continuing their winning ways for their softball program. I mean, you look at how they've began the season right now. They are on a 13-game winning streak right now, picking up wins against St. Catherine University yesterday. They've got Hope College coming up this weekend. But shout out to Blue Gold baseball, too. Taking 3 out of 4 games against UW Oshkosh this past weekend. 11-4, 6-3, falling 1-11, then 9-6. So a fantastic weekend for Blue Gold baseball, too. They got St. Mary's University in Minnesota coming up halfway through the week, too. So good weekend for some baseball and softball for the Blue Golds. So shout out to them. All right, shot clock's cutting me off. It is half